Hey, it's Jacob. Welcome to this new video. Today I'm going to talk about 3 ways to go from Excel to PDF with Python. By the end of this video, you'll have 3 efficient ways to go from Excel to PDF with Python without doing the mistakes beginners always make. Specifically, I'll talk about what's wrong with what you can find on the internet about this topic, how to make sure you don't use the wrong tool to do the job, and the 3 tools you can trust to do this. And make sure you stay till the end of the video if you don't want to miss out on a step-by-step action plan to fill out PDF forms with Python based on an Excel file. So a lot of people have these problems, and you might have tried to find information about doing this on the internet, but you found 10 ways and they all seem difficult or not for beginners. And you might have even felt like it was an easy thing to do, but for some reason you didn't find a way to make it work. Or maybe right now you have the problem of filling out a PDF file using an Excel file, and you have to do that again and again and again, and you feel like you're wasting your skills on a task a 10-year-old could be doing. Or maybe you tried to fill out a PDF form using an Excel file with Python, but it didn't work because it was encrypted, and for some reason you couldn't decrypt it. And it feels like no one talks about the real-world problems people have when dealing with Excel files in Python, because you can't find this information on the internet. So first, if you can identify with any of those things, here is what not to do. Don't use non-standard modules to do this. On the internet, you will find a lot of different modules to do this, and people will advertise all of those modules. But the reason why it doesn't work is because it's not robust enough. When you'll need documentation about that module because it won't work in some specific ways, then you will have to look for more information about how to use it, and the documentation will be nowhere to be found. And if you look on the internet, you will find different ways on separate platforms like different blog articles or different forums to go about solving this issue. And why it doesn't work is because each piece of content will say that it's the way to go about solving the problem without comparing it to other approaches. And the problem is, as a beginner, you don't know which one to choose. So if you looked on the internet and had those problems and are still lost and confused about how to do this, well, it's not your fault, because it's almost like free content is meant to be confusing. So what you really need here is the standard approaches to go about solving this without using the unusual non-standard modules. And again, why standard? Because it's more robust, and if you have a problem now or in the future, you will find a solution. So let's get started. The first is using win32com.client module to convert the Excel file to PDF. So when do you need to use this way of going about solving this problem is when you need a PDF with the same format as the Excel file. It's basically exporting your Excel file as PDF. So why do you need to use this one in particular if you have this problem? Because it's the easiest way to do this. This is the way that works, and if you have issues with this, you will find solutions. The second way to do this is using PyPDF2 when dealing with PDF forms. So let me explain more in details. It's when you need to fill out PDF forms based on information that are in an Excel file. And from there, what you need to do is read the Excel file using the OpenPixel module and use the information to write on the PDF forms with the PyPDF2 module. So when do you need to use this? You need to use it when it works. And sometimes it doesn't. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the third approach. But why do you need to use this one if the third one works all the time? Because you'll need to pay for it. Not literally, but in robustness. If you use PyPDF2, whatever happens while you're doing this, while you're writing on the PDF form, is not going to affect the way it's writing in the PDF form. So for example, if there is a pop-up appearing on your screen, it's still going to write the PDF form correctly. It's not going to interfere with the way you're writing on the PDF form. But if you use the third approach, which will consist of taking control over your mouse and keyboard, then if something happens, then it's not going to work. So this is the best approach to go about doing this because it's the most robust one. But again, what if it doesn't work? You can use the pyautogui module when dealing with PDF forms, and PyPDF2 doesn't work. So again, the pyautogui Python module is to be used as a last resort. It consists of taking control over your keyboard and mouse to write on the PDF form as if you were doing it yourself. And why would you want to do that when you can use PyPDF too and it works all the time? Some people will say that it works all the time, and it's true in theory, but in practice it's not. Let me explain. Most PDF files are encrypted, but there are different modules that allow you to decrypt them easily. But sometimes the way to decrypt them easily doesn't work either. So you kind of have to find other ways to go about decrypting them. Those other ways are sometimes difficult to find, and sometimes the problem is that they are deactivating the advanced features of PDF forms when you decrypt them. And why do we care about the advanced features of the PDF? Well, because it's where the text field features are located. So this kind of defeats the purpose of doing it. And that's the thing that no one talks about. The real world problems that people have when they are dealing with PDFs. Sometimes you can't really decrypt them, and that's not that unusual when you're dealing with real world problems. Now let me give you a 3-step action plan to go about actually doing this. The first step is reading the Excel file. Again, to do that, use the module OpenPixel. The second step is creating a list from the data that you read in the Excel file. Either a list of lists to create a matrix or a list of all the text fields that you will use to fill out the PDF form. The third step is writing into the PDF form. So use a for loop on the data contained into the list to gradually fill out the PDF form, either using the pyautogui module or the PyPDF2 module. Now you could do this by yourself by looking on the internet for the actual lines of code to do exactly that, but just know that you are taking the risk of getting frustrated and associating Python with a bad experience if you go that route. And if you are a beginner, then you might need a more step-by-step approach to get started with Python, because otherwise you might waste a lot of time using the wrong command for reading an Excel file, for example. That's the reason why I created a free online course to help you avoid wasting your time. You can click on the link in the description to get it. Now that you know how to go from Excel to PDF with Python, you might be interested in saving even more time with Python. I'll talk about this in the next video. Have a great rest of your day and see you in the next one.